Love me when you're sober. You said that we were over, so I don't really know why I'm still not enough. And I'm still not enough, not enough.
Hey there guys, welcome back to a brand new YouTube video where today we're going to be talking about a music video that I shot for the artist Harry Strange a couple of weeks back. This video is also going to mark the start of a series called How I Shot It, which is basically whenever I do a project or anything exciting that I'm working on, I'll do a video on it showing you guys exactly how I did it, the process and exactly what gear I used to get the desired look. So over the past few weeks I've been lucky enough to work with a really talented artist called Harry Strange. He reached out to me on Instagram with an idea for a video and I was like, yeah, let's do it, this is awesome. It seemed simple enough and I thought I could carry it out well, and the final product I felt was something that I'm really proud of. So I've decided to make a video on it showing everyone basically how I did it, the gear that I used to make the video, and my editing process as well. Luckily enough, the video was a one-shot take, which meant that in terms of editing, there wasn't actually that much to do. It wasn't too complicated, but I still had to make sure that the colour grading was nice and clean. The whole idea for the video was Harry singing out the side of an Uber, driving through the streets of London at night, which is a fairly simple concept, but it needed carrying out well, so I really had to choose my gear carefully and pick something that I knew was going to do the job and do it well. So what I decided to go for was this thing. This was the rig that I used to shoot this video. I'm not actually going to hold it for too long because it's quite heavy when I'm sitting here talking, and I've got B-roll footage to show you of it as well, so I don't have to hold the damn thing the entire time I'm talking. Basically it's a Canon 6D Mark I, so not immediately what you would assume to use for a video production, but I'll explain why I chose it in a minute, and also I did a whole video talking about why I decided to get this Canon 6D Mark I the other day, so if you do want to check that out, I'll link it down in the description. So it's a Canon 6D Mark I, so it's a full frame 20.2 megapixel CMOS sensor. Paired with a Samyang 35mm t1.5 cine lens. So this lens is dedicated for video, which means that it's got a declicked aperture ring, and the focus ring it's got a really long throw, which means that you can really get those really nice accurate focus pulls, and it's not going to change if you say tap the screen or anything like that. So you can really nail your focus, and this is before we even get to the monitor. So this lens was really great. It opens up to t1.5, which is, I believe, it's the f-stop equivalent of f1.4. So paired with the high ISO performance of this camera, it was almost an immediately great pairing to use in that low light setup that we were doing shooting in. And then if we move on to the monitor, this is the Feelworld Master MA5 monitor. I'm thinking about doing a full review for this monitor, but if people want to see it, then do let me know, because I will be prepared to do a video on that, because I would like to. It's basically it's a 170 pound 5-inch monitor from a company called Feelworld. It basically gives me all of the video capabilities that I should be using, that I should have access to, but obviously Canon cameras for video, they are quite restricted in a lot of ways, so they don't have focus peaking. They have histograms built in, but obviously you don't have focus peaking. On the 6D Mark I you don't have magnification, so you can check your focus or anything like that. You've also got a false colour, which is really useful for getting a good exposure as well. You've also got safe lines, so say for example if you wanted to shoot in a true 2:35:1 aspect ratio, but your camera doesn't do that, you can get as like a safeguard marker which shows you on the camera monitor what you'd be cropping out, so you can sort of adjust for that before you edit in post, which means that you don't have to sort of do any guesswork in terms of what's going to be in your frame and what's not going to be, which is really useful. So there was a couple of downsides to using that setup. One being the fact that the 6D Mark I, it doesn't give a clean HDMI out signal, which means that when you pair it with the monitor, it doesn't actually take up the full surface area of the monitor. So it takes up like, I don't know, like 80-85% of it in the middle, so you get like a black area around it, which kind of sucks, but in a way it's useful because it gets all your settings on the outside and it doesn't get in the way of what you're shooting. But when you put the 200D on it, it does fill up the whole screen space, so you do get a clean HDMI out from the 200D and many other cameras. But obviously I didn't get that with the 6D Mark I, which is something I didn't realise. It's not too much of a downside, but it's just something I had to work around. Getting permission from Uber to actually shoot the video, it wasn't too difficult actually. I called up Uber's customer support and they were really helpful and useful. They did take about half an hour to actually find out if you are allowed to shoot a music video from the back of an Uber, but you know, what can you expect? They probably don't get that sort of thing all the time. And it's a funny fact actually, the first time I'd ever been in an Uber, I was actually shooting this music video, which is quite strange because I've never had the need for an Uber, which is quite funny. Overall, we did about 4 or 5 different takes throughout the evening, just with different lighting conditions. And the last take we did was by far the best because it was really dark by that point, and we really wanted that sort of artificial lighting, sort of retro 80s aesthetic. And I think all of the artificial lights really helped to serve that aesthetic, especially with the color grading as well, which was really nice. So I was super happy with that. And almost as soon as we stopped recording, all of us said, yeah, that's really, really cool. When we were actually out on the shoot, it was myself and Harry Strange and his friend Eloise. I'll tag them both down here so you can check them out, because you'll probably see them in the BTS videos that I'll put over this video, so you can see them too. In terms of the recording settings I decided to use, if you just know a lot about cameras or you've seen my 16 Mark I review video, I actually decided to shoot the video in 1080p in the All-I codec. I know a lot of the Canon cameras use the IPB codec, but the 16 Mark I luckily has All-I, which is a much cleaner version of 1080p, so I managed to get a really nice crisp file out of the All-I codec, and then I exported the video into 4K afterwards, so I got a much better version of 1080p than I would have done, say, if I was using just the IPB codec or the 200D. So the 16 Mark I with the All-I codec really saved me there, and it produced a really nice clean result, which I'm really proud of. We played around with a few different aspect ratios. So the initial idea was to use 1:1, just because that would fit well for Instagram, and then we moved sort of into 4:3, 16:9, so standard, and then 21:9 as well. But in the end we went for 4:3 because that sort of matched the 80s aesthetic we were going for. I think that worked really nicely because it's sort of reminiscent of what TVs used to look like in the 80s and early 90s, before the introduction of widescreen TV was sort of widespread and everyone had it. So if you've ever watched like a video cassette tape or anything like that, then you'll know that it's got the black bars on the sides and it's 4:3, like sort of square but not completely. So that choice of aspect ratio was really key to how the overall aesthetic of the video panned out, and I think that was a good decision on everyone's part. What I also found funny was when we got into the first Uber, we sort of pitched the idea to the driver and was like, listen, is it okay if this guy sits in the front seat and looks back out the window? And he was just sort of like, what? Because obviously you don't get that very often. In terms of where I was sort of sat for this shoot, I was in the footwell of the Uber. I wasn't actually hanging out of the car because that's quite dangerous, and I'm not quite sure if you're allowed to do that. I basically had these two arms of the rig, so like these bits, they like clamped against the car door. So imagine if the car door is like in this bit. I had them clamped together against there so it wouldn't work. And then this bit, sort of the middle rail part, was sitting on the window frame of like the car window, and then I had my head like lodged in like some part of the car. So like I had as many points of contact to the car and the rig as possible, which meant that I was able to keep the camera like ridiculously steady for the entire video. And whenever the car moved, the camera moved, which really helped make it quite realistic, and sort of took away like the fact that I'm actually just sitting there recording, if that makes sense. And as I said before, in terms of editing, this video really wasn't too hard to edit, just because it was a one-shot take. All I had to do was put it into DaVinci Resolve 15, and then obviously the color grading was the only difficult part. We tried out 4 different color grading options. The first one, which was the one we used, was sort of a nice classic faded look, which sort of desaturated the colors a bit and made it look quite filmic. But initially when I tried it out, it was like way too faded, and all the shadows and the highlights were like completely messed up, and I didn't like it at all. So I fixed that, and that's eventually what we went for. The other color grading options were sort of more punchy, more contrasty, which took away the faded kind of look. And we also had a color grading option which was like sort of like a purple haze, which I quite liked. But in hindsight, the color grade that we actually went for in the end was my favorite, and I was really happy with it, so it's all good. For the final export, like I said before, I upscaled the footage into 4K, so that when you watch it on YouTube and then you can downsample it into 1080p, it looks better than standard 1080p because it's a 4K file and whatnot. So I really managed to pull as much detail and information as I could out of 1080p, which is what I'm used to working with. I've never shot in 4K before. I'm just pretty used to shooting in 1080p. But I think what you can do with the All-Eye codec is really great, and I think that's really underappreciated. And it also still baffles me that it's not on the 6D Mark II, which is, I just don't know why they wouldn't do that, which is very strange, but I'm glad it's on the 6D Mark I. So overall, I'm really happy with this video, and I'm quite proud of what I've produced. I'm also really looking forward to working with Harry Strange again. We've got some really exciting stuff coming up in the future. If you have enjoyed this video and seeing exactly what the gear I use and how I edit and things like that, then please do like, comment and subscribe. It really does help, so I'm trying to grow. And if you think I've missed anything out or you've got any questions for me, then do let me know down in the comment section, as I would love to get back to you and answer your questions. And until next time, I've been Harry.
Forgot what your name is. Didn't stop you to take it. What the fuck did you take it for? We're downstairs in a stranger's room, the people I don't really care about, yeah. Small talk from a point of view, from someone I don't really care about, yeah. I don't know what you're leaning on, but you're looking like you're tripping out.